Hey guys, we are living the best lives we ever have lived as a species. We would like to believe that you and everyone else listening to this podcast has been blessed with the opportunity to be at the helm of human progress in this age of scientific and technological development. So the question is, if we are so privileged in the 21st century, why don't we feel privileged as a people? Why does it feel like we're aging quicker? And why are we witnessing mass populations in developed nations with deteriorating mental health all around us? Today, we will be examining the case that the current state of affairs in our developed world is in fact doing damage to our mental state and biology. Joined with us today is the always wonderful and charmingly brilliant Simon. This is the Glass Prism Podcast. Enjoy. Let's start this episode with a fascinating question. I want to basically ask you this and pick your brain about it. So, in your opinion, what are the biggest contributions to the development of the human race? Like the biggest innovations that mankind has benefited from?
Do you want like a general term or do you want specific inventions?
Tell me what comes to mind.
Okay. Me as a person living in the 21st century, I'm going to put a few of my chips on technology. More specifically, I want to say computers.
Okay.
AI, computers? Computers as in processing. I want to say let's go even as early as Turing. Like anything there for me, I feel has radically changed humans to the point where it's made quite a sizable impact.
Okay. And what about computers that actually made a sizable impact on the human race? Like what changed it to the level that it became in today?
Just raw processing power. And I mean that as in terms of where it's being applied. Okay. Like I want to say, when you go and order something off Amazon, like the fact you can do it so quickly without having to go through all those hoops. Like I want to say it's a matter of efficiency that has changed the human race. Just the way that computers operate allows us to do so many things so quickly.
Yeah.
It's the fact that it's efficient has allowed us to basically use that time to do other things. You've watched Lord of the Rings, those elves who are completely immortal and they just kind of given up on innovating because of it. But like for us, now we have time. We're actually doing things with it, right?
So when you say we're doing things, do you believe that because of the computers, we are more productive as a species than we have been before?
Now you're asking some pretty tough ones. I want to say overall, like as an aggregate species, yes. There's going to be some exceptions, I feel.
Okay.
But what do you think?
Personally, I think the best contribution of human innovation is something that's been around for so long, but has only recently seen some strides in actually being applicably scientific, and that is medicine. The reason being is because without having a good sense of medicinal properties for the sake of biological health, you would never ever get to the level where you want to be in terms of longevity to actually contribute to the society around you. So, but if you're really becoming reductionist, we can contribute all of these things to a term that is casually sprawled out in political debates, right?
Yeah, let's hear it.
And often is the topic of controversy, and that is capitalism.
Oh, ew, capitalism. Oh, disgusting.
So today is going to be a very interesting conversation, mostly because of the fact that we're going to talk about the benefits of capitalism and the disadvantages in the long term. So what we're going to be talking about is why capitalism is unsustainable biologically.
I am excited for that.
Okay. So to many, capitalism is the catalyst to most human innovation. The premise of capitalism is for providing opportunity for talent to address the problems faced by the population in the form of trade and commerce, right?
Yeah.
So with a significant focus in accumulating wealth and profit by monetizing such talent, right? Now, the problem lies here. The focus is in generating wealth. This is why neoliberalism and capitalism is biologically unsustainable. This is because, just think about it like this. If the premise is to provide a service in which there is need, you can take the desires of the consumer and commercialize it to a destructive level. Just think about everything around you that is so successfully commercialized in abundance. Think of the fast food industry, right? Fast food chains are convenient, tasty, and fast. But in much of the developed world, their health suffers because of this.
Right.
Technology in terms of social media is designed to encapsulate your mind in a frenzy of dopamine shots when you compete and compare lifestyles with others and see fictitious success through likes and whatever. Even as an observer, you spend so much time scrolling through for hours, right? That's lost production time. Like, even if you wanted your society to be as productive as possible, it might be the opposite effect that you intended capitalism for it to have.
I see.
Like, if you intended to give people the opportunity to do more with the tools that you've given, maybe they do just the same, but then use the rest as free time.
It's free time. It's leisure. Well, like, okay, so let me just get this straight. So the crux of your position on this is oversaturation of wealth, or rather the pursuit of wealth, is so large that it's affecting productivity. Like, it's just overconsumption.
The point that I'm trying to make is that, like, inventions that often hit the holy trinity of consumerism, which is pleasure, convenience, and affordability, find success easily in our economy. But this does not mean that we become inherently productive, and it doesn't benefit our mental and physical health either, right?
Right.
Yeah. So that's the point that I'm trying to make.
Okay, I do agree, because, you know, if you go to the absolute baseline macroeconomics model, it's always going to be a balance of consumption and leisure. I mean, that's just the way that we've, you know, as economists, as people, have categorized what we value in our, I know we're going to say this term a lot, capitalistic society.
Yeah.
I do think that it's a numbers game in terms of, okay, now you're saying, like, yeah, social media is now very pervasive. Fast food is now very tasty and very affordable and very much consumed in great excess. But who is doing the consuming? It's a numbers game, right? Like, maybe I'm not the one using social media that much, and I just so happen to be the next Mark Zuckerberg. I am so productive that I make up for the rest of the people in the world. I actually am not very smart, so this is very unlikely. But I'm the guy that makes up for 10 people that are using Facebook every single day of their lives and basically waste away. What do you think?
To have that mentality, that means basically you've accepted that lost potential within other people and just said to yourself, okay, I know these people are just going to sit around, watch their favorite shows on Amazon Prime, Netflix, whatever.
Not sponsored.
I'm not going to be doing much. Yeah, obviously. But the point is here, like, if that's the stance that you're having, right? I would make the point that, why don't you just make sure that whatever you create as an economic model for these people to operate in, you make sure that it's conducive to both their health and productivity, right?
I think it's possible, but not for firms whose goals are profit maximization.
Okay, so that's the problem that we need to, because here's the thing, right? It's clear to people that in our last century of, like, globalism and capitalism, that we are not going to benefit from going down the same road 50 years from now. We can't.
Yeah.
Simply because of the fact that if we treat the world as a resource bank, and that we basically manipulate these resources for the purposes that fit our needs, and then just dump them out and realize that we can't use this dump again, then you eventually run out of resources, right?
Yeah, okay.
By definition, if you can do anything and not do it forever, by definition, it's unsustainable, right?
Yes, and you'll see that in a lot of social cause, right? Like, it's like you said, with fast food and all that. You'll see the consequences.
So for fast food, it's not just unsustainable from a resource point of view, from a world point of view, but it's also very, very unsustainable from a health point of view. Because you can play the game of, like, oh, as long as people get sick and we have the medicines, we can give it to them. Yeah, sure. But how about preventing them from getting sick?
Now, you do say that, but the medical industry is, in some countries and in some shapes and forms, and maybe even at the base level, a business.
Yeah, it is a business.
Yeah. So you know, if the fast food industry sustains the healthcare industry, then, you know, on this business level of symbiosis, it's mutually conducive.
Yeah, but think about capitalism as a principle. Okay, capitalism, like if you have a need, right?
Okay.
If we as a population go like, you know what, this fast food stuff is not good for me. Okay.
Okay.
I can't eat another Burger King. That's it. It's like cancerous substances injected into my bloodstream every single time. So I won't eat this anymore. What does that mean? That means there's a need within that population now. Okay.
Right.
Which means that offers an opportunity for innovation. Okay?
Right. And it's always been like that, right? Since the dawn of innovation.
Exactly.
The first rock thrown, right? The first stick.
We just need to refocus that capitalism. But to be honest with you, the factor of commerce and trade, as long as it works towards the fundamental desires of a human being, you're going to deplete the resources that you have as well as your mental and physical state. Because just think about what you desire as a human being. Okay. And think about whether they're easily available to you right now. Okay. Mm-hmm. Now that might relatively change because of the fact that like in your state right now, you don't necessarily think about, I need clean water or I need shelter or I need this or I need that.
Well, it's like Maslow's hierarchy, right? You don't think about the bottom once you've climbed.
Yeah. But here's the problem. They don't. They flipped it on its head.
Right. It's the tangibility of the satisfaction that's the issue, right? And I feel like okay, me, I love food. I love eating lunch and dinner and whatnot. But you are right. And in that case, I could say, maybe I don't really think about how much I spend on food sometimes. Okay. Maybe I'm like, okay, this has satisfied my need, but this hamburger has satisfied my need. But I don't know. That's a tough issue, but I think a lot of that also comes from like human as a condition. You'll always want more, and I don't like to say it. It's a rather negative expectation to hold, but people will always ascend and want more. People are naturally in some way egocentric, like they do want better.
Yeah, and the idea of wanting better, you need to offer value, right?
Yeah.
So this is the idea of capitalism, is just that you can have some trade in the form of, hey, I've got skills. You want those skills because you cannot do something yourself. Just pay me money, like just some sort of trade, and I can do it for you. So yes, in essence, this is a very egocentric way of doing things, but it does benefit both parties. Now, what I'm saying is like, that's a very broad manner of doing things. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not arguing that.
it basically just ends up being, what do you value as a consumer? Okay.
So
let me introduce another part of this conversation. Because this is something that's been discussed by the world leaders at the World Economic Forum. There's a convention called the Davos Agenda. Okay. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of controversy around it and a lot of speculation about lizard people taking over the world.
Fantastic.
But see, the idea of resetting the world comes from the ideology termed the Great Reset, which happens to be this year's theme in the Davos Agenda. Okay, so every year they have this convention, the World Economic Forum, and they invite like presidents and all the people that can afford stuff that we can't. Okay.
Yep. Sounds about right.
So it's basically a convention of rich aristocrats showing up and talking about how the world should change, knowing fully well they're the puppeteers orchestrating this mess. So this was popularized, as I said, by the World Economic Forum. But the idea that we're talking about is stakeholder capitalism. And the idea here is that capitalism should not just be driven by profits. It can also be driven by the well-being of its stakeholders. And that is not limited to human beings. That can also be the environment around that.
The social costs. But I do want to push this point on you since we're on this topic. And you mentioned the tangibility of needs on humans. So what about the tangibility of the needs of the stakeholders? Isn't it very difficult to identify these needs? I'm not going to go out and say I'm an expert marine biologist, but if I have an oil firm and they're causing significant damage, maybe I don't perceive that damage as well as, a whale might, a fish might,
Yeah, so that's why science is at the helm of telling us like, okay, here's how not to do it, here's how to do it. Like we just need to put our foot down at this point because if you continue down this road, it's not just the whales dying that you're going to have to worry about. But I'm just saying like, ultimately, people don't worry about the storm that's knocking on their door until it's taken their roof away.
Of course.
Yeah.
I mean, it's always been like that. It's because, you don't perceive it.
Yeah.
You don't see it.
Egocentrism. It really is.
We should be ecocentric, but we're egocentric.
Yeah. I mean, to some degree, like we just have to be malleable with the way that we think about things. Integrating well-being and mindfulness and eco-friendly activities into corporations is going to be very, very tough, because the very infrastructure, the very fundamental principles in which these industries have been built need to change.
Yep.
And that basically means that, okay, if you used oil because oil was a resource at that point for energy, you can't use it anymore now. Okay, what does that mean? All right, then we have to get very creative with what we're going to do.
Force innovation out.
Yeah, but here's the thing. It's not just oil. It's everything built around oil.
Yeah.
It's plastic.
Yep.
It's cars. It's almost every single thing in this room has been made using that resource.
Yeah, millions of industries would be forced to, on a very basic human level, a lot of employees would be like, what do I do now? I've worked my whole life in oil.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm too old to change.
So how do you change that? It just requires the level of innovation that is unheard of. But here's the thing. People know it's difficult, but we've come so far. And yes, we do have very, very powerful tools now. If there was ever a time for us to do it, it's now. Right? So there are bigger problems in the sense that if you're going to change it, you need a much stronger force than just a bunch of presidents going like, and I know that we're basically causing so and so billions of tons of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere and it's literally killing,
literally destroying the world.
Yeah. But this is why the world needs to change. But the thing is, everyone is just so into virtue signaling rather than action.
Yes.
Right.
And this is also, I want to say, a social media and public appearance problem. I want to say virtual signaling is a matter of how it's projecting. It's projection.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So where do you start? Yeah. It's like, we need to take action. Which industry do you start with? Okay. If I said that we need to be carbon neutral by 2050, but what does that mean? Like, what are we changing? What's the plan of action here?
I think that's a matter of, because we're on the topic of how people feel. I think it's a matter of proximity about what you can actually do, because I'm not a huge oil magnate. I'm not a huge corporation who's doing all these different operations and making this huge footprint. I'm just a guy who tossed a paper plate into the garbage rather than recycling. It's little things like that. How do you make people want to jump into action because it feels like they're not making a difference?
It's culture. You need to make it ingrained into that into the population's culture. That here are the values that is most important to us. Because right now, it's like the transition is not just a systemic one. It's genuinely a cultural one.
Yeah.
Like, here's where you should care about. Like, up to the point in which you go to school. Like, why do you go to school? You go to school because you want to get a job. Why do you get a job? Because you need money. Why do you need money? To pay off your
ridiculous
stuff.
debts and bills and loans.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's why. Okay. So what's the important thing? Money. Okay. So what are we going to have to do here to fiscally incentivize these people to become eco-conscious? It's very
that's $1 million.
Odd, right? Like, for you to go like, I think you'll benefit from being eco-conscious. Like, why? That's not in line with my interests. I just want to make money.
Yeah,
that's what I've been.
But
taught.
For us, like, rewriting culture, you're going to need more than an eraser whiteout to get this mentality out of people's heads.
You need a revolution.
Yeah, you're going to need, like, I don't like to use this term, genocide. You're going to need to break open that culture, explain to them why it's not working. And that's so drastic. Is it possible? Is it doable?
Okay. For us to start with that problem, let's dissect big industries and think about, just brainstorm some certain ideas about how to solve the most unsustainable practices in those industries.
All right. What's the big industry on your mind?
My biggest industry is if I own one.
Wow. Okay, Mr. Bezos. Sorry. Anyway, sorry. You can go ahead.
What I'm interested about is food. Okay.
Oh, yes.
The reason being is because
there you go.
There's I think it was Vandana Shiva. Do you know about Vandana Shiva?
I do not. Can you explain to me and the wonderful audience?
Okay, so she's very popular now on YouTube because of her stances taken against Bill Gates's reforms about how to operate in an agricultural industry that is now global. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So our food chain at this point is like our food supply chain, right? Is global. Okay. At this point.
Oh yeah. Talk to Unilever, talk to any Nestle, like any of these companies.
Exactly. Yeah. But in many practices to create these, to create food at the scale that we are creating it at, it's incredibly unsustainable with the ways that we're operating. Okay. Vandana Shiva is the founder of the Research Foundation for Science, Technology, and Natural Resource Policy.
Wow.
Okay.
Wow.
It's a mouthful.
Yeah. Oh, respect. That's amazing.
Yeah, but she wrote her own book about why we need to change our relationship with food. Okay. It's because a lot of people, when they think about food, it's because of the fact that it's so available. Nobody thinks about how important it is as a commodity. Like it's not the first thing that you think about when you're what's the most problematic things on earth right now? It's like nobody thinks about
because it's readily available. I want to say in a lot of different. It's at the bottom of Maslow's hierarchy, right? It's the thing that you search out for before basically anything else.
Exactly. So when you think about food, you would not think to yourself like that is the driving force for loss of habitat for the animals, right? You wouldn't think about it as that is the number one source of allergens for people that are currently consuming it. And not to mention, you wouldn't think of it as contributor to carbon emissions because of cows farting a lot. So,
but do you think that's like more so preferred, like, gravitation? Because like, I'm not going to say I hate food because I depend on it so much. It's a 3-day, 3 meal a day thing. Yeah. I'm not going to want to hate it. If I were to drive a gasoline car, I'd be like, well, what's so bad about it?
Yeah. So some of the points that Vandana Shiva mentions, right, is that the commercialization of any food product ended up in really damaging the quality of that food product and damaging the environment in which it was being grown in. Right. So at some point, these are very interesting things that she mentions. By the way, she's a physicist.
Wow.
Yeah. So like,
what doesn't she do?
And now she does this, and basically she studies like the relationship between human beings and their food. One of the things that she mentions, when you think I'm going to make the following dish, okay?
Okay.
There are dishes that require a lot of ingredients from different countries, right? And those countries commercialize their ingredients for that purpose because they know they have a global need for it, right?
Yep.
So what happens is during the time that they're made, right, there are certain ways that you have to do this to avoid the commercialization process from failing. And that is using herbicide and pesticides. Okay.
Yes.
So
farmer's favorite.
Exactly. If current practices of food consumption is permanently damaging to the water sources because of the herbicides, the pesticides, whatever, and for example, if you use a herbicide, about Roundup, right? It's one of the most widely used herbicide in the world.
Yep, industry standard, I believe,
and one of its active agents is glyphosate. Okay, it locks up the manganese in the soil and other minerals in the soil as well, and it also is toxic to some certain microbacteria. Okay, why is this problematic? It's because of the fact that the soil, don't think of it as just dirt. Think of it as the environment of which the microorganisms that live in it provide the necessary symbiotic relationship with the plants to offer it the minerals that it needs, and for the plants to offer it the nutrients for them to grow.
Yeah, without it, like, you don't get plants, right? It's the way that the environment has interacted since before humans were a thing.
Well, that's the interesting thing. You can kill off a lot of microorganisms in the soil and still have the plants, but the plants themselves, they're not healthy.
Yeah. And that's not something we as humans can perceive quite as readily.
Exactly. So this is basically stuff that we've only known after we've studied it. And that's only after we applied it. We make things, we find out there's a problem a little bit too late, we study them, and then we find out, oh, we shouldn't have done that.
After layers of, after the damage has already been done.
Yeah, but that's only after you've made like billions and billions of dollars and creating an industry.
What are you going to do? Return it back to normal? Like,
you can't do that. You can't anticipate it, right?
Yeah.
So this is the problem. So glyphosate is actually one of the most radical agents in the food industry, because of the fact that even as an active agent in basically preventing unwanted weeds from growing on the plants, around the plants and everything, people don't necessarily understand its effects on the human body. Now, the FDA did mention that it's not necessarily toxic to you, right? Like minorly toxic. That's what they said.
Yeah. But that's such a umbrella term.
But by the way, minorly toxic, but make sure that any food that's touched by this active agent, you don't give to cats and dogs.
That's a little, wait a minute.
And not to mention, like, basically, as soon as you introduce this active agent, your plants that you're making food with, it's ultimately very immunocompromised. You end up having plants that need them to just function, because if you don't have those agents, it will die. You've basically affected the soil, in which like very good bacteria, by the way, the good bacteria fight off the bad bacteria. And that's true for every single thing that's ever had, like even in your guts. And this is the truth. So if you end up killing off some good bacteria, you end up proliferating the amount of bad bacteria in the soil, and that ends up being obviously very, very dangerous for the plant to survive. So you end up, what do you use? You end up using pesticides, whatever, so on and so forth, right?
Well, like, okay, and you make a very good point, but to play the devil's advocate, what if you're the farmer who now has to sustain this amount of crop yield because if you don't have that much, if you don't bring enough to the farmer's market, you don't make enough money to basically sustain your business.
So here's the thing. That's the problem. Every single time somebody thinks about how to make an industry sustainable, it's like you can't keep the same needs.
No, you can't. Yeah.
Then how are you going to meet them?
Yeah. And like you said earlier, when the need is identified, when the want is identified, the infrastructure it takes time to build. Yeah. And I want to say it takes even more time to strip down and basically, efficiently and not violently dissolute, right? Like, how are you supposed to create an alternative in reasonable time? Like, let's go back to this farmer. Let's say, okay, next winter, they've said, okay, we need to limit the amount of corn that is being produced because the pesticides that are being used on leaves is killing a certain type of bug, which is actually quite essential to the ecosystem of which the farm is located. Then what is the farmer going to do? He's got, like, let's say 3 kids, and how is he going to survive? He's been surviving like this for a long time, and maybe he's not the most easy to change. Even if he could, who's going to teach him how to use new technology, and who's going to teach him how to make this yield work for him?
That's the idea. The same people that keep preaching that, for example, carbon dioxide is very bad for the environment and this and that, they don't take individual responsibility and say, I'm going to change.
No, there's no solution. It's just stop doing this. That's it.
You can't turn to the industry for them to change because there's no intrinsic
like desire for them to do this. Why are they doing this? Because you told them to?
Exactly.
Because it won't make as much money?
Exactly. And the thing is, it directly affects you.
Yeah.
Okay. We'll get to the part where it's like, here's how it affects your health very directly, right? The way that we're currently operating. But even indirectly in the way that we're speaking about right now through food and how you're contributing it, like intrinsically just by playing your role in society and just being another lamb in a herd of sheep.
Exactly. You enable the direction of the herd. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah. Honestly.
Who's even leading it at this point, right?
Yeah. It's just, imagine if everybody went like, guys, I'm eating half the amount of meat now. Like every single one of us. Do you think the meat industry will be like, yeah, we'll make more meat? No. They're going to change.
Yeah. Well, but that's a ripple a ripple in like the direction of which this need flows. Like if you like, I think for me and what I'm kind of getting from this conversation is the issue is really transforming the group, because I can change myself. And well, I mean, I do like to eat meat, but I would do it, right? I'll do it for the environment. I'll do it for whatever. But how am I going to get other people to do this? What's in it for them? See, that's the thing for us. Like that's the key. There needs to be not even necessarily regulation, but there needs to be some sort of direction of which this can be taken. Unification
of purpose here, and basically everybody needs to agree that okay, we're going to do this. It needs to be so potent that people are willing to change, because it is culturally ingrained. We know this. It's like one constant in these in the proposals facing the food industry right now is that there's a sense of urgency that people aren't taking seriously. Like as the pace of change seems to outstrip our capacity to react to it. So some of the solutions that were discussed amongst scientists that know much better than us,
all right, lay 'em on me,
is that we need to study the chemicals that are being used before they are commercialized as the level, like Roundup and everything. We need to study it more aggressively. Okay. In different environments and in different ways, because right now how the FDA does it, like there's certain criteria that makes it seem safe, but it's only after we find out the long-term effects of such things and everything.
But for us, how do you simulate long-term? No matter how harsh the conditions, I feel like it's impossible to get a perfect long-term test without long-term time passing.
One of the things that I personally think will actually solve this problem is if you marry science with business. Like genuinely, if you had all the science people just have some business expertise and like integrate it into education, you might just get more innovation. Because I do think that there's no sense in teaching the people of how to make a business and how to make a business run different. Like, these people are going to be like the people who are business people. They're going to be making the ideas. Right? They're not science experts.
No.
They're not going to know how potentially well this certain stuff is.
No, they're not schematics people. They just have the ideas, right?
Science people are trained to be employees. Like they're trained to be, here's your labs, here's what to do. They need to be the critical thinkers and business people. Genuinely. Like you just need to.
It's complex though, no? Like
honestly, how complex would it be for people who learn about, like, I don't know, the chemical imbalances of the human body, for them to just know what a financial statement is? Like, it's not going to be that hard.
Yeah.
I'm doing it right now.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, I'm a neuroscience specialist with a minor in business science and entrepreneurship. And I'm telling you right now, it makes no sense for you to divide them up, because those people who you need for them to innovate, those are the same people that they don't know that they're supposed to be innovating.
But now see, that goes back to the actual change in culture that you mentioned earlier, because this is how things have operated for quite some time. Like so say I just came out of university with the marketing specialist, and I'm actually going to use a real life example for this. Just, why not ground it? I was applying for jobs, right? Because, just graduated. One of the jobs I came across was, I believe, marketing for, I want to say it was a desalination plant of some sort. So obviously the requirement is you do need to know the very basics of marketing, right? Like you need to know how to do the campaigns. You need to know how to do basic graphic design, etc. Okay. But then here's the second caveat. You do need to have that chemistry knowledge. You need to know like how the process works. If someone were to go to you as if you were a worker at that plant, you need to explain to them, okay, so this is how the salt works. This is how the chemicals balance. This is exactly how it works. So tell me, how are you going to find someone that has that combination? Not everybody's a neuroscience and business person like you, right?
But I do think that systemically, I wasn't encouraged to do business, right?
Mm-hmm. So you've always been, see that, like, I'm not accusing you of anything. I'm just saying, like, when you're an undergrad, my point is, like, it's hard to get people to change from the roots. I guess we're going to use the vegetable analogy. Like getting people to pick these different mindsets and adopt them is so difficult, because I don't even know how many years people have been like, okay, you're learning computer science. You take computer science. You are a business guy. In fact, specialize even more. Only do finance, only do marketing, only do accounting.
Yeah, because that ends up giving you much more money.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's there it is. That's the root.
There it is. I told you.
You got to pull it, right? Like,
yeah, but what makes more money than making sure that you have people to pay you in the future?
Well, but see, that's not innovation. You're going to be doing the same job for forever. And like, I mean, yeah, sure, they'll ask you to work on some stuff, but that's survival. That's substance, right?
Okay, but here's where we go, because this is the part where I think it's going to be very, very critical. Remember the part when we said this is like we need to stop the virtue signaling and we need to take individual responsibility?
Mm-hmm.
We talked about this separately in the episode so far, but I think they're very, very intertwined.
Oh yeah,
it's because if you take individual responsibility, even the governments like should personally take responsibility. They should stop thinking to themselves like, we need to regulate these industries. Like, you need to give them the tools for them to know what to do, because they're not going to change. So, because the fundamental of it is like, I know that I've provided a service for these people. They're being rightfully judged for their intentions of making money, but the only reason they're making money is because of the desire of the people. If you change the desire of the people, these people will change too. Mm-hmm. The only way you can do that is to make sure that they have the right tools and the right like culture for that to be stimulated within the people and the workforce that are getting into it, right? So like, you're not going to get people who are going to innovate for the purposes of sustainability with the way that you're treating them now, because they're still in the same framework that you're trying to fight, right?
Okay.
So, yeah. So another one actually that was really interesting is precision agriculture.
Okay,
I don't know why it sounds so weird. Precision agriculture.
There you go.
It aims to target the right amount of water and chemical treatments to only where they are needed, avoiding widespread spraying and wastage. Okay. So that is the goal. Yeah, there's ways to do that.
I from what I've heard so far, it looks really good. Sounds really good.
Yeah, but that's the thing. People are so like impressed with the idea, but it's like, yeah, we just defined the problem. We just said the opposite.
It's the end goal, but not the solution, right? It's not technical enough to be the actual feasible.
Exactly.
It's just a big linguistic, bureaucratic term that we can use to bridge the gap.
One such development is actually the use of silica nanoparticles, and these are like release with the fertilizer and pesticides at a slow, steady rate, reducing the amount and frequency with which they're used, right? Mm-hmm. So some of these solutions also contain microorganisms to help jumpstart the soil regeneration. I know I saw like some type of company was trying to actually make electricity using the soil, but the soil needs to be of a certain
pH, or
it needs to have certain components in there.
Oh, like mineral components.
Yeah, that are healthy for the soil, but it makes electricity. Another industry that is biologically unsustainable within the realms of capitalism is the workforce. Okay.
Oh, interesting.
General workforce.
Large group you've got there.
Yeah, exactly. So anybody that's involved in labor, right, of any sort, now in the developed nations at least, most probably works not as a laborer, but rather as a office worker.
With a nice blue collar or white collar.
Yeah. So we know that, I don't know the proportions of the population within Canada, for example, of how many people are blue collar and how many people are office workers, white collar, whatever. Mm-hmm. But I imagine there is a 2 to 3 ratio.
I don't know the exact numbers, but honestly, I would agree with you.
Yeah, it's most probably that. So in this case, we were never meant biologically to sit down for hours and do work in that sense, right? Mm-hmm. So the computer you mentioned as one of your favorite inventions, but at the same time, I think the way that we use it, it wasn't meant for our bodies. It wasn't.
No.
So it's like, sitting down for long periods of hours is actually a very awkward position for your body to be in. And so you end up with many, many difficulties biologically. Not to mention that sitting down is not just bad for your posture and your back, which is already bad enough. Mm-hmm. It's also very much linked with heart disease.
It is.
And a whole host of different issues. Not to mention the things that you end up using it for. For example, if you sit down, if you're watching TV, if you're using social media, if you're using computers, and you're surfing the internet, like, I don't imagine the content that you're consuming is also that great for your health, right?
No.
Like, often it's not going to contribute much to it. See, the thing is, we had a very interesting relationship with the nature around us when we went and we hunted back in hunter-gatherer times, and we basically started collecting fruit and everything. You get your daily exercise. The fact that we have to call it daily exercise now shows us where we've gone.
Yeah.
Okay.
I guess in a way, like, and you frame it really well in terms of like technology being sort of a catalyst for this.
Yeah.
I think that it's difficult because if it's efficient, then why should we revert back? You know, if the grocery store is super convenient for us to shop food from, why should we go run around, pick strawberries and apples, if not for just like the thrill of that alone? Like a lot of people do that for the gimmick of it. They don't do it because it's necessary. The farmers do that. And the farmers have cultivated a place where that is possible to facilitate efficiently already. So
like right now, a pastime, and I bet our ancestors will shit on us for this.
They're rolling in their graves.
Is that we pick cherries. like some of us go cherry picking, apple picking,
and
whatever.
It's fun to us, right? And I like it, but
but here's
imagine doing that every day.
I don't imagine the first person to ever think about, okay, listen, guys, I think I got this. We can actually make our own plants here and make food here.
You don't have to go around and travel in herds.
I don't imagine that person had any intentions of actually like destroying our relationship with.
No.
Yeah, so it makes sense, right? It makes sense. It's like, if I can make food here, I don't have to move around that much. So it's very, very convenient and increases my chances of survival. So
it's a natural progression. Like, I don't know much about Darwinian science and all that, but it's like with our brains, we'd be like, if this is better, then why aren't we doing it? Like,
exactly. But it conserves energy. But at this point, right, we went so far down that rabbit hole of conserving our energy that we genuinely have to basically waste it for us to stay healthy.
Well, but the energy, like the net energy, sure, you're getting a lot, but if energy is not being used for anything, is it really efficient, right?
Yeah, for example, the idea of 3 meals a day.
Yeah.
The human body wasn't supposed to have 3 meals a day.
Sometimes I have 4, so.
Like it's very interesting. It's like you can have snacks, for example, but it's not meals. Meals 3 times a day is actually not that conducive for your health.
No.
Yeah. So people,
the carbs, right? And the, what's it called? The calories, like it's not what, to compensate for that. You're not even living the lifestyle that our ancestors lived. Yeah. You're not exercising it off.
And that's the very interesting part, is that why isn't it biologically sustainable for us to end up in this capitalistic society and contribute in a way to our jobs and eat the food that we want to and all this stuff without it completely destroying us? It's because we don't necessarily have all the cards when we make these decisions. We really thought about 2 things, and that is it going to make us money in terms of the business person? And from the consumer, is this going to make my life easier?
Exactly.
Right? But if your life is going to be much harder because of it, in the long run, that is not something that we anticipate happening. Yeah. I actually feel so bad for the new generation.
Oh, no. Yeah. It just keeps getting worse and worse. But see, that's the thing. We have to be the change, right?
Yeah. Like, especially as at our age, like we are basically what they're depending on. Somewhere in there, there's an ending.
Somewhere in there, there's an ending. But on the glass prism, there's never an ending. There's more a call to action. We want to hear from you. What do you guys think?
What we should do differently to make sure that the people of tomorrow survive, and without making compromises that are so radical to their survival.
It starts with you. So be the catalyst.
Go get that Tesla.
No, we're not shilling for Musk.
No, we're not.
Have a good one, everyone.
Ciao.